Hello, this is Joe Savage from datatype.net, and today we're diving into a Lua tutorial in which we're actually going to start doing some scripting. So open up your text editor or IDE of choice and let's get started. So the purpose of this tutorial is we're going to create a simple script which can output some text data to the user's screen. Now, this may seem pretty simple, and that's because it really is. It's only going to comprise of a few lines of code, but of course there are bits of theory and other things that we should really know about so we can reach this end goal and so we know what we've written at the end. So, a function in Lua is simply a named piece of code. So whenever you reference that piece of code, it simply goes to it and it executes this pre-written piece of code. Now, there are a bunch of functions built into Lua, and we can use these to do some sort of general tasks for us, and that's really, really useful. Now, when we use a function, this is called calling the function. So let's say there was a function pre-built into Lua called output_alphabet. This doesn't really exist, but it's just an example to sort of show you how this all works. If we called output_alphabet, it would do its job, which, perhaps is outputting the alphabet in text data to the user's screen. Now, some functions require values to work, and these values are called parameters. So if there was a function called add two numbers, it probably requires you to pass to it the two numbers you want to add, and so you'd give it to the function as a parameter, or as parameters in this case, because there are two of them. So the syntax for calling a function in Lua is you write the function's name, and then in brackets you write any parameters that you want to pass to the function. Now, if the function doesn't require any parameters, you simply leave these brackets blank, but obviously otherwise you might want to just specify any parameters in here, and you can comma separate them if there are more than one, so parameter 1, parameter 2. So in this case, we're calling a function called name, and we're passing it parameter 1 and parameter 2. Now, this doesn't quite work because we're not really using a real function, and parameter 1 and parameter 2 are not sort of real things, but that's the basic syntax. So to really get started here, let's just wipe everything from this document, and let's just save the file with the .lua extension. So I'm just going to call my file helloworld.lua and just save it. And note that some IDEs actually require that you use this extension or they won't run your code, so it's probably best if you save it with this .lua extension. So some functions require certain types of parameters to do their job properly. So in the case of add two numbers, the function we just sort of made up, you'd need to give it sort of number values, otherwise it's not going to know what to do with them. Now, there are a bunch of different data types in Lua, but one of the most common ones is the string data type, and this is essentially just text data, so it's just a combination of characters, and this is expressed in Lua through single or double quotes. So if we just have some double quotes here, and we just type in hello, this thing right here is a string which is comprised of the value capital H E L L O, just like that. Now, one of the pre-built functions in Lua is called the print function, and this outputs text data to the screen. Now, obviously this is going to be extremely useful in our program where the whole aim is to output text data to the screen. Now, this function commonly takes a string value, so all we have to do is we write the name of the function, and to call it, we simply then, in brackets, write any parameters we want to pass to it. So in this case, we want to pass to it a string, which we want it to output to the screen. So if we want to output the words hello, just like that, we can save our .lua document, and then if you're in an IDE, just go ahead and click a nicely sort of placed run or debug button or something like that, just like, play green arrow or something. Or if you're compiling and writing separately, just go ahead and open up terminal or whatever and compile your code. So in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and open up terminal, and I'm just going to type in, and let me just go to my location, like that, and I'm just going to type in Lua, hello world.lua, and it should run our script. So if I just hit enter here we go, you can see it's ran our script and it has outputted hello exclamation mark, which is exactly what we told it to do by calling the print function here. Now, because functions are very modular, and the whole point of writing functions is that you can execute the functions with any given parameters any number of times you want, we can just go ahead and we can copy this line and we can paste it. And if we put in something else, so let's just say, we put in goodbye afterwards, so we want to print the value hello, and then we want to print the value goodbye, which of course are string values as we've determined, which can be written with double or single quotes. And if we save this and run this, just clear the screen and run it, we can see it now outputs hello exclamation mark goodbye exclamation mark, which is brilliant. That's exactly what we wanted by calling the print function twice. Now the thing is, what if we didn't want this new line? You'll see it's automatically put in a new line for us. It said hello exclamation mark goodbye exclamation mark. Now this isn't because our print functions, we're calling them on separate lines. This is because the print function by default adds a new line for you. Now there are a bunch of different ways you can get around this, so if you don't want this to be the case, so maybe one of them is to smush the strings together. So if we just went here, we take this out entirely, and we just sort of smush it into one string. Now this works really well when you're just working with strings like this, but sometimes you can't just sort of shove them under one set of double quotes. So what if we wanted to remain, we wanted them to remain as individual strings? So we'd realistically have, let's just bring that back, we'd have hello, goodbye. Now we can't just have it like this, because the print function is going to go, hang on, what have you given me here? You've given me a string and then a space and then another string? What's going on? I don't understand. So what we need to do, and we can't just sort of use a comma to give it as another parameter either. We want this to be one parameter, but we want to combine the strings. Now, when you're combining or sort of smushing together strings like this, it's called string concatenation, and there is an operator, so that's basically just a symbol which does something in Lua called the string concatenation operator, and this simply smushes strings or other variables sort of together into strings. So in this case, if we use the string concatenation operator right here, which is just 2 full stops or periods or dots or whatever you want to call them, then what it's going to do is it's going to get our hello string, it's going to smush it together with our goodbye string, and it's going to pass all of that to the print function which is being called, and it should then output this. So if we add a space here for formatting, we save, we then go into terminal and run this, we can see, here we go, it now outputs hello exclamation mark, space, goodbye exclamation mark, and that's because our string was concatenated into one bigger string. I should probably also note at this point, by the way, if you like to end your lines with semicolons, you're totally allowed to do that in Lua, but it is completely optional. So if you've done like some C programming or anything like that in the past, it may be sort of good by you to end lines with semicolons, and if you want to do that and you think it makes it look tidy or whatever, you can, but it is completely optional. You don't need to have any line endings or anything like that in Lua. But anyway, that was a bit of a side note. So the other way we can get around this sort of new line thing, so if we go back to the way we had it before, where we had print hello, print goodbye, we didn't have that space there, it was just like that. We can actually just use an entirely different function. So print is one built-in function. io.write is another, and this essentially just outputs text to the screen, but doesn't leave the new line. So we can just write io.write, and we can just use that here. And now what should happen is this should be outputted on the same line. So actually we do want this space here, so it should output the string hello exclamation mark, and then the string space goodbye exclamation mark, and it shouldn't leave any new lines or anything like that. So if we just go back here and do that, then aha, now it says hello exclamation mark, goodbye exclamation mark, and of course our next actually terminal line for me hasn't even gotten a new line. So literally io.write is just a function which just outputs text and doesn't have a new line. Now technically speaking, it's not really a function, it's something else because it's executed upon an object, but don't worry about that quite yet. We'll have to talk about where in the future. For now, just think of it as a function. io.write, just think of it as a function. So the other thing, what if we want to then output a new line using io.write? Now this is entirely possible through the string. Now with strings, if you ever want to put a new line into a string, all you have to do is you type \n. Now this is, there are a bunch of different things you can do here to do this kind of thing. In this case, what we actually just want to do is we're just going to do \n, and that means new line. So if we just put one after hello and one after goodbye, we should see that essentially behaves in exactly the same way as the print function did. There we go. So now it's behaving exactly the same as it did at the start. And so then what if you might just be curious, if I ever actually want to output the text \n, what would I do? Well, then what you do is you go \\, so that's called escaping the \ character. So we're making that back into a real character, if you like, and then we output n. So if we wanted to do that on both of our ones here, it would be a little bit weird, but we can. Just go ahead and run that. You can say it now says hello \n, goodbye \n, which is what we did by escaping this \ here. And similarly, if you ever want to contain a double quote within a double quoted string, you can simply use \ and then your double quote symbol. So if we wanted to, let's bring the second one back to print because I like the new line there, but let's use io.write on the first line. So if we wanted to output hello and then I don't know, if we want to output hello in double quotes, for example, we can simply do a \ and then a starting double quote, and then at the end here a \ and a starting double quote, just like that. So we open our string, we then escape a double quote character, so that's actually part of the string. We then write hello exclamation mark, and we then escape another double quote character, and then we actually end our string, and we pass all of that to the io.write function which we're calling, and then that outputs it to the screen. So again, if we save and we go ahead and run this, then you could say, here we go, it says quote hello exclamation mark quote goodbye. So it works exactly as we intended. And that's really all we're going to do in this tutorial. It's really quite simple, but we've introduced the concept of functions and how modular they are and how we can sort of just use them as many times as we like. And we've introduced parameters and the string data type and the string concatenation operator and a bunch of really important stuff, which is you need a strong foundation with that kind of thing to be able to build on it in the future. So the string concatenation operator, especially if you were writing something like we had it before, we had hello exclamation mark dot space goodbye. What we can also do is we can combine other data types with this. So if you want to just add a number in here, so we want to say hello, I'm number, and then we want to output a number. Of course we could just write it inside the string, but if we wanted to use the sort of number data type which Lua uses, we're not going to really go into this into a great amount, but we can just then concatenate this into the string as well. So I'm, then the hash symbol, and then we want to concatenate in the one number, and then to that we want to smush on space goodbye. So if we go ahead and save this and we just run that, hello, I'm number 1, goodbye. So it does exactly what we intended, but we're actually using a different data type using the string concatenation operator. And although this might not seem very useful now, in the next tutorial when we learn about variables, that's going to come really going to come in handy, and we really need all this knowledge to actually work with variables in the next tutorial, which is sort of a big leap on from here. So that is the end of this tutorial. Hopefully you've learned something. We've definitely gone over quite a lot to provide some good foundations. If you want to know anything else about this, if you're viewing this on my website, all the text content is just down below. If you're viewing this on YouTube, the link to that is just in this video's description. So that's the end of this tutorial, and have a nice day.